Kopi Jana Palapa Giri Paratari Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Anachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Palapa Giri Paratari Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Palapa Giri Bharadari Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kishore Kishori ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Marani ki jai, Bonitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Canto 10, chapter 86, and therefore text 42 through 45 of the individual texts. So text 42 is the one we'll be chanting together. So 10, 86, 42. Yeah, I think 36 is the ones in the board as well. So that's the incorrect one. Writing's very useful. So I'll begin. Natan kayam asakuto maman babu. Yahanta kupe patitasya sangama. Yasarva tirtas pada padarenubi. Krishnena chasyatma niketa bhushurai. Satarkayam asakuto maman babut. Grihanda kupe patitasya sangama. Yasarva tirtas pada padarenubi. Krishnena chasyatma niketa bhushurai. Satarkayam asakuto manababut. Grihanda kupe patitasya sangama. Yasarvatirta spada padarenubi. Krishnena chasyatma niketa bhushurai. Please chant. Satarkayam asakuto mamanbut. Grihananda kupe patitasya sangama. Yasarvatirtas pada padarenubi. Krishnena chasyatma niketa bhushurai. Satarkayam asakuto mamamabut. Grihanda kupe patitasya sangama. Yasarvatirtas pada padarenubi. Krishnena chasyatma niketa bhushurai. Satarkayam asakuto manababut. Grihanda kupe patitasya sangama. Yasarva tirtas pada pada renubi. Krishnena chasyatmani ketsa bhushurai. Sakar kayamasa kuto maman babut. Vihanda kupe patitasya sangamam. Yadvatitas patas sadas renubi. Srena chasyatma niketa bhushurai. Thank you very much for chanting. So the word for text 42, sa, he, tarkayam asa. Try to understand kuta, for what reason, mama, for me, anu, indeed, abut, has happened, griha, of home, anda, blind, kupe, in the well, patitasya, fallen, sangama, association, ya, which, sarva, of all, tirta, holy places, aspada, which is the shelter, pada, of whose feet, renubi, the dust, Krishnena, with Lord Krishna, cha, also, asya, this, atma, of himself, niketa, for the place of residence, surai, with the brahmanas. And the translation, this is BBT translation. He wondered, this is Shrutadeva the Brahmana talking. He wondered, how is it that I, fallen into the blind well of family life, have been able to meet Lord Krishna? And how have I also been allowed to meet these great Brahmanas who always carry the Lord within their hearts? Indeed, the dust of their feet is the shelter of all holy places. In text 43, Supabhistan Kritatiyam Shrutadeva Upastita Sabarya Swayanam Patya Ubachandvi Abhimarshana. In the translation of text 43, when the guests were seated comfortably, having each received a proper welcome, Shrutadeva approached them and sat down nearby with his wife, children, and other dependents. Then, while massaging the Lord's feet, he addressed Krishna and the sages. Text 44. Shrutadeva Vacha Nadya no Darshanam Praptam Param Parama Purusha Yarhitam Sakriti Shrishva Pravristo hi Atma Satayam. And the translation of text 44. Shrutadeva said, it is not that we have attained the audience of the Supreme Person only today, for we have in fact been associating with him ever since he created this universe with his energies and then entered it in his transcendental form. In text 45. Yata Shayana Purusho Manasaivatma Mayayam Shri Svalokam Param Svapnam Anuvishya Vapasate. The translation of text 45, and here's a purport. The Lord is like a sleeping person who creates a separate world in his imagination and then enters his own dream and sees himself within it. Purport, and this is the disciples of Srila Prabhupada purport. In the illusion of his dream, a sleeping person creates an apparent world, complete with cities populated by the fictional products of his imagination. In somewhat the same way, the Lord manifests the cosmos. Of course, the creation is not illusory for the Lord, but it is for those souls who are put under the control of his Maya potency. As his service to the Lord, Maya deludes the conditioned souls into accepting as real her temporary, insubstantial manifestations. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurimilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitamena Bhutale Swamupakadamayam Tadati Swapadanti Kambandeham Shri Guru Shita Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragutam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Shah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapsa Kanchana Gorandi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Anchakalpati Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Deva Chapatitanam Padnevi Vaishnevyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Om Swami Tinamine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pashacha Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Good morning. So this quite a few verses. So the context is nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada. So putting everything that we've just read this morning into the context, this is from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is how Srila Prabhupada puts it. Meanwhile, the Brahmana Shrutadeva, simultaneously receiving Lord Krishna and his associates at his home, was transcendently overwhelmed with joy. So that's the emotion and the situation. So we may recall, as Srila Prabhupada puts it, that King Bahulashva and the Brahmana Shrutadeva, knowing well that the Lord had come there just to grace them with his favor, immediately fell at the Lord's lotus feet and offered their respects. With folded hands, the king and the Brahmana each simultaneously invited Lord Krishna and all the sages to his home. In order to please both of them, Lord Krishna expanded himself into two and went to the home of each of them. Yet neither the king nor the Brahmana could understand that the Lord had gone to the house of the other. So both thought the Lord had gone only to his house. So that's the context. Actually, we're reading in these verses Shrutadeva dealing with Lord Krishna. It's actually simultaneously Bahulashva, the king, was also receiving Krishna. And neither of them knew that Krishna was present simultaneously in both places. So the opening verse to this section today that we're looking at has Shrutadeva wondering what the reason might be that he's been afforded this meeting with Lord Krishna. He's thinking about it. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains, and it was the one word in the stanza that we chanted together that had anu, which was translated as indeed. And this is so interesting because just that little anu is broken down by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he says that indicates his thinking, his thinking process, and nu indicates his astonishment. so that's his emotion. He's actually quite astonished that Lord Krishna's right there. And of course, we'd read that, it aroused joy in him. So Srila Vishwanath states that Shrutadeva, he asks a particular question. So he's confronted with Lord Krishna. His family has gone through the motions of receiving Lord Krishna and offering mats, foodstuffs, lotus flowers, like things that were very easy for him to get because he was a simple Brahmana living in the forest. So this is the question he poses to himself. So he's thinking this. And how did I get to meet these sages, who are the special resident places of Krishna's personal form and whose foot dust is the abode of the holy places? So that's the question he's asking of himself. How did he get to meet them? So the understanding of the special position of these sages that are accompanying Lord Krishna, and this is a listing, these were the sages: Narada, Vamadeva, Atri, Krishna Dvipayana Vyas, Purushottama, Ashita, Aruni, Sukadev, Brihaspati, Kanva, Maitreya, and Chiavanu. So those are the sages that have been referred to here. A whole listing of them, very important sages. So the understanding of who these sages are is that these particular devotees, they literally are the holy places personified. That is how extraordinary these personalities are. And the reason that they are these holy places personified is that they carry the personality of Godhead within their heart. And thus, just by virtue of the fact that they're carrying the personality of Godhead within their heart, they turn any place that they're in into a place of pilgrimage. So this is the particular extraordinary distinguishing characteristic of these sages that are accompanying Lord Krishna, and that Shrutadeva is asking this question: how did he get to meet them? So indeed, they are extremely extraordinary. And Srila Prabhupada explains that these are pure devotees of Lord Krishna, and how one defines this pure devotee idea is that Lord Krishna's omnipresence can be perceived and made evident just by actually meeting them. So one comes to understand, oh, Krishna is present in all these different personalities. Just by meeting them, one comes to understand that. So the simile that Srila Prabhupada uses to help one to comprehend this idea is that it's a bit like the fact that these sages can allow one to understand that Krishna is omnipresent, present in each of them, being carried in the heart of each of them, is that electricity can be perceived in a light bulb. So, within the light bulb, you understand there's electricity. So these sages are like that. They're carrying this form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with all his potencies and energies. So, and that particular simile is used by Srila Prabhupada in one of his purports in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 13th chapter. So their presence surcharges the whole atmosphere of any holy place. Were they to be standing in a holy place, their presence surcharges the whole atmosphere, and so purifies the consciousness of any human being who comes to that holy place. So there's the holy place, but the presence of this kind of personality that's carrying Lord Krishna within the heart, this completely purified devotee, that's actually what even surcharges the atmosphere even more. So Srila Prabhupada makes a generalization that the personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their pure service. That's the reason he's with them. They completely dedicated to serving Lord Krishna. So he defines that service. So, you want to know what kind of service are they performing that makes it so extraordinary, is that every action they perform is not for their personal pleasure. There's no such thing. And they also are completely free from having any kind of speculative ideas that envision perfection. So they don't have their own ideas of what's perfection. So this is the defining characteristic of their service that makes it so pure. It's not some mental ideas. It's not some action for personal pleasure. So Srila Prabhupada paints the picture even further. Because, this is what Shrutadev is wondering. Who are these? How is it that he got to meet these extraordinary persons? And he understands that it's as good as going to a holy place. So Srila Prabhupada paints the picture this way. He says, this is from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While the Brahmana was thinking in this way, the guests finished their lunch and sat back very comfortably. At that time, the Brahmana Shrutadeva and his wife, children, and other relatives appeared there to render service to the distinguished guests. And while touching the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the Brahmana began to speak. And that's a part where he's speaking was text 44 that we read. And this is Srila Prabhupada putting it in his words of what Shrutadeva said to Lord Krishna. So he's just gone through this thinking process, this astonishment, and this is what he says to Lord Krishna. So it's kind of the beginning of his prayers to Lord Krishna because he's glorifying Lord Krishna. So he says, my dear Lord, you are the supreme person, Purushottama, transcendentally situated beyond the manifested and unmanifested material creation. The activities of this material world and of the conditioned souls have nothing to do with your position. We can appreciate that not only today you have given me your audience, but you are associating with all the living entities as Paramatma since the beginning of creation. So, very clever Brahmana. So Shrutadeva's statement to Lord Krishna, it encapsulates the process of thinking of Lord Krishna because he points to Lord Krishna's transcendental nature. Because he's saying Krishna is separate from the material nature. So Lord Krishna explains how one can think about him. So there's a lot of emphasis on the thinking process of Shrutadeva. And so I'm looking at how Lord Krishna explains how one can think of him. And this is how Krishna puts it. And this is from Bhagavad Gita 8:9. He says, one should meditate upon the Supreme Person. So he's talking of himself. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything. As he who's the oldest, who's the controller, who's smaller than the smallest, who's the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who's inconceivable, and who's always a person. He's luminous like the sun, and he's transcendental beyond the material nature. So note again, this was the point that Shrutadeva noticed, that Krishna is separate from the material nature, and Krishna says that that's one of the ways to think of him, that actually he's transcendental beyond the material nature. So that's how one has to think of him. So, from this statement of Lord Krishna, one understands that he's the oldest personality because he's the origin of everything. He's the beginning of everything. That's why he's considered the oldest. Not that he's, wrinkled and decrepit. Not that kind of oldest. But oldest from the point of view of being the origin of everything. So, everything is born out of him. So Srila Prabhupada writes that Sripad Sankaracharya, so he's actually one of the impersonalist commentators on Bhagavad Gita, and he admitted that Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond the material nature. So even an impersonalist understands this. The Supreme Lord is beyond material nature. And except for him, everything else and everyone else is within this material creation. So that has to be understood. It's a very significant point. And this comes in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 29th chapter, 14th verse, where that point is made. So Narayan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Krishna, is always in the transcendental position. He's beyond the influence of the material creation. So one can note the fact that Lord Krishna is, and this is what it means to be in the transcendental position and to be free from the material creation. Listen to what it is. To be free from anger and all material qualities. So greed, lust, anger, those are the prominent material qualities. So Lord Krishna is free from those completely. So just as the Lord is transcendently situated, so are his pure devotees. So that's the extraordinary thing, and that's what Shrutadeva is completely amazed. He's got Lord Krishna in front of him and all these sages that are just like that. They also are transcendentally situated. So he's completely amazed. So that definition is one who's not affected by the three modes of material nature. That's what it means to be in a transcendental position. So these are the liberated souls. And these are the sages that Shrutadeva is talking about, and one can note also, one can speak the same thing of him. So the description of this category of persons, these liberated souls, that are free from the influence of material nature, they're in the transcendental position, is like this. One who is thus transcendentally situated, and this is coming from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself defining who are these liberated souls, 1864. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So notice that's the description of a person who's transcendentally situated, who's free from the modes of material nature, fully joyful. He's never desiring to have anything. He's already attained devotional service to Lord Krishna in its completely pure form. That's his whole focus, his only focus. So there's a description of Shrutadeva which is very charming. It came from a verse earlier on, and it points to exactly this kind of defining characteristic for a liberated person, particularly of being fully joyful, because this is the description. Listen to it, it's so fantastic. There's a description of Shrutadeva who in his ecstasy held his chadar in his hands and waved it above his head while dancing in joy over Krishna's arrival at his home. So that was his response when he saw Krishna and the sages. He took his chadar, held it in his hand and was waving and dancing so joyfully. So it's almost like a graphic picture of this description that Lord Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita of 1854 of the liberated soul, fully joyful. And the particular verse, because it's so significant, is Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasojati Nakanchati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mat Bhaktim Labhate Param. So that is actually Shrutadeva. So he's marveling at the sages, but actually he's also that liberated soul. So there's a commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami which puts Shrutadeva's communication to Lord Krishna in a simpler way. I read to you how Srila Prabhupada said his communication was to Lord Krishna. So listen to the very simple way that Srila Jiva Goswami puts how Shrutadeva speaks to Lord Krishna. I think it's very lovely. I have been able to see you only today when you have made your appearance on earth. Beginning from the time when you created the universe and entered it as Paramatma, Atmas Satya, I have not seen you. Seeing you suddenly is your great mercy. So see, the clever Brahmana. He's saying that actually Krishna's been present there since he created the universe, and he hasn't been seeing him. But today, suddenly by Krishna's great mercy, he's seeing him, seeing Krishna. So the entrance of the Lord is described by Shrutadeva. So Shrutadeva describes himself as one of the many living entities that are strewn all over the material world to enjoy matter to the maximum. That's the purpose. It's like they're strewn all over the material world, and the purpose is to enjoy material nature to the maximum. Usually we hear in our society the statement, drink and be merry. That's the idea. Enjoy to the maximum. So after entering this material creation, or this material substance, the Lord Vasudeva expands himself and enters into it. And although he's within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he's always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. So the Lord is Paramatma and the eternal friend of the living entity, guides the living entity in his material activities and becomes witness to all these activities. So that's actually the position of Krishna. He appears to be one of the living entities, but actually he's always enlightened, always in the transcendental position. In fact, he's even residing within every living entity. He's witnessing this enjoying to the maximum of living entities. So Shrutadeva goes on. So this is what he says. My dear Lord, you have entered this material world as if sleeping. A conditioned soul, while sleeping, creates false or temporary worlds in the mind. He becomes busy with many illusory activities. Sometimes he's a king, sometimes being murdered, and sometimes going to an unknown city. And all these are simply temporary affairs. Similarly, your lordship also, in a sleeping condition, enters this material world to create a temporary manifestation, not for your personal necessities, but for the conditioned soul who wants to imitate your lordship as enjoyer. So that was from Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada giving the words of Shrutadeva to Lord Krishna. So that was touching on the very last verse we read. So Srila Vishwanath, he has Shrutadeva saying it like this. So that the acharyas, they're understanding what Shrutadeva is communicating to Lord Krishna, and they just verbalize it differently. And sometimes it's helpful to actually see how different personalities are expressing the words of someone else, because it gives some further insight. And Srila Vishwanath has Shrutadeva saying, "Oh Lord, you created the universe just by your mind and entered it. I am an example of a jiva that was mentioned. Thus it is fitting that I am seen by you." So he's giving justification why, he can understand why Krishna is seeing him. After all, he's one of these jivas. And so Srila Vishwanath notes that he speaks again using clever words. So that's the point. Shrutadeva is very clever. So his words are rather clever. Srila Vishwanath explains that just as a sleeping person, by his mind, he becomes immersed in the ignorance of a dream. I mean, I have this thing that often when I'm dreaming, I become very aware of what I'm dreaming. And the idea is that you become immersed in your dream. And Srila Vishwanath is saying one can create villages, cities, and then enter them all in your dream to see, feel, and experience. Similarly, you also perceive the world as it's manifested only by your Maya. So he's addressing Lord Krishna. That's from the beginning of creation until now, you've always been seeing me. So because Lord Krishna has created the creation, he's always been seeing the particular jivas. It's not that he hasn't been seeing them, he sees them. I, however, so like Shrutadeva, beginning from the creation until today, have not seen a trace of you. So that's the horror. Lord Krishna is present, he's even present within one. He's seen one, but one is not even understanding that there's a trace of Lord Krishna there. So the Lord is never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I'm covered eternally by my yoga maya. So the deluded world knows me not. And that's what Krishna says. The deluded world knows me not. So there's a teaching of Lord Rishabdev in the 5th canto where he expresses a very similar thought because he's educating his sons. And he says, due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about the real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He's simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for that purpose. So that's what makes one ignorant and not even understanding a trace of the Lord being present. It's the fact that one's whole world is geared towards material enjoyment and fulfilling one's desires. And all one's plans revolve around that. So it makes one completely oblivious that the Lord is present. So for temporary sense gratification, this is Lord Rishabdev saying, for temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to his mentality, he plunges into an ocean of suffering. So that's the horror that happens. Such a foolish person does not know about this. So imagine, that's actually the result of functioning in that kind of way. One is actually plunged into an ocean of suffering. So one could say that the whole world is in an ocean of suffering because their lives are revolving around this material enjoyment and making plans to enjoy it to the maximum. So Krishna explains, and this is Bhagavad Gita 7:25, I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya, and as the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. So that's actually the condition of everyone, and this was all the insight that came from these verses. If there's any thought, question, further ideas, please feel free.
You mentioned the characteristic of these great sages, the defining characteristics is that was explaining the verse, and I think in the purpose of the acharyas that they carry Krishna within their heart, and that's what defines there. And then we also hear that Krishna is he's present in the heart of all living entities. So in one sense, everybody is carrying Krishna within their heart. So I think, as just this last thing that you said, that you read, that explains that although Krishna is within the heart of everybody, when one is absorbed in the ignorance of the material, creation, one doesn't see Krishna. So I guess there may be the defining different to carrying Krishna within the heart, and the other is Krishna's presence in the heart. There's a little, they have to be. There's definitely a difference. I was gonna say subtle, but no, it's actually a substantial difference of being constantly aware of Krishna's full presence, there. And then the other one, although Krishna is within your heart, you're just not aware of it. We don't feel, we don't see, Krishna. And also, it is confusing when is your mind speaking to you and when is the super soul speaking to you. There's no clear distinction. So I think it's important to.
Oh, that's very wonderful, your comment. Just drawing attention to the fact that even though every living entity has um, Krishna within the heart, because of being in the ignorance of the material creation, they actually can't even see him. So you were looking at the fact that one has to distinguish between Krishna being in the heart of every living entity and then these sages who actually have Krishna literally, they're aware of his presence, fully aware of his presence. So that's a very nice distinction being made. Yes, and that's why they refer to as being in the transcendental position, just as Lord Krishna is in the transcendental position. They um, not caught up in any of the that consciousness, that material consciousness that is just all about enjoying and making plans to enjoy. Rather, the consciousness is attuned to Krishna, and that's what Krishna consciousness is. One is actually um, uh, through serving, one is cultivating consciousness of Krishna. So, hence the increasing good fortune that eventually allows for that complete awareness of Krishna being present in one's heart and an understanding of it. So, yes, it's that kind of gradual process, and they reach that point of complete awareness. Thank you. Just a very nice point, just making that distinction of what it means. Having Krishna in the heart and being fully aware of Krishna being in the heart.
Thank you for your class, Mataji, even many other classes also.
That's very expensive.
well, I remember you giving a class. I think I may, if I may not be correct, but I think I remember in classes, or maybe even a class that you had given about how the Parama. Well, we hear in Bhagavad Gita how out of thousands of those who have attained perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. And I've heard how I think the knowing the Lord in truth is Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and the Bhagavan realization. And then how after a certain amount of time, a certain form of the Lord takes takes resides in like that devotee's heart, like a certain Ishtadev or a certain form is there. But I think it was in one of your classes you spoke about it. Like it changed its form.
Um, yeah, I don't recall. Um, yeah, the main thing is that actually the point that's being made is that one can actually see that because that was the point Krishna made in this verse from Bhagavad Gita 7:25, that generally those that are deluded, they don't know him, and they don't even understand that he's infallible and unborn and always present. Don't even understand. So yeah, that. carry the yes. Actually, now I'm remembering something. The the form that one is meditating on of Krishna, so it could be a deity form. There's the understanding is that that same form becomes manifest. Oh, this is Krishna. Yes, one comes to that awareness and understanding, and that's the form one carries in the heart. Yeah, so it's none different. Yeah.
In in this translation, where they say, "How is it that I've fallen into the blind well of family life?" Um, when we hear like neg- family life being like referred to as a blind well, all right, and then you have grihasta life. Isn't there a very strong distinction between the two?
Well,
Grihasta and what they're referring to as opposed to grihasta life is a holy situation, right?
yeah, yeah. The when you read about this dark well, it's also sometimes referred to as a forest fire entering family life. So there's this, usually how it's described is there's a marriage and the husband is seeing the wife. It's very beautiful and gets very happy hearing the sound of the wife's voice and then the children's voices. And then as time goes on, the wife gets old and ugly and wrinkled um, and is constantly demanding this, that, or the other from the husband. So this is the description. and so actually, there comes to be, uh, from what was seen before as a beautiful entity, comes to be seen as an ugly entity, or like, a demanding entity that one is living with. So that's the picture that's painted of being consumed in something that seems to be one way and then ends up being another way. Um, but of course, it's quite different if it's not within that ocean of what would one call it, illusion, but rather it's the um, the marriage situation is such that everything is that each person is trying to cultivate Krishna consciousness, then it's a different thing, because then there's the thing of respect and valuing another person as a servitor of Lord Krishna. So it's on a completely different level of functioning. So it's not on that base level of somebody just demanding, taking, but rather on both persons attempting to elevate consciousness. So it's very extraordinary then, because then each person is assisting the other. So the dynamic is different. It's a dynamic of assisting versus a dynamic of taking or sucking dry someone. So, and um, but yeah, the consciousness is being elevated. So different. Yes. Well, thank you very much. And there's
Thank you for the class. And I have a question. You mentioned that Krishna does not have anger and greed, and but we like have those qualities. But like as per description, we are like drops of the ocean, and we should have. I mean, like whatever ocean has, we have too, and Krishna is the ocean. So it's kind of like where those qualities come from, and why they were created, and like just kind of maybe you
yes.
could.
you you're drawing attention to the fact that there's a description of the living entities having the same spiritual qualities as Krishna. So that's that analogy that's made of the ocean and the drop of water from the ocean having the same qualities. So those are spiritual qualities. That the soul is eternal, it's blissful, and it's full of knowledge. So those are spiritual qualities. But because uh, the 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 subtle body of the living being is actually geared towards trying to enjoy on a material level, then because of that, um, the in the subtle body, just because of wanting to enjoy the material creation, there comes to be this greed, there comes to be anger about not getting what you want, there comes to be this lust, you must have, you must satisfy what your desires are. So it's the material creation is made to give one that opportunity to try and enjoy. And then, if one by great good fortune comes across a Krishna conscious person, then that opening is there that actually one need not immerse one's whole life in trying to enjoy on a material level. We can actually think about changing one's consciousness from that desire to just move in that direction, to move in the direction of servitorship and a more transcendental position of connecting oneself with the supreme creator, and so actually deriving one's happiness and one's enjoyment from serving him. So the consciousness moves from that base level. So the purpose for the creation is because we, on the subtle level, have those desires. We have that desire to enjoy materially, and it requires cultivation on a different path, the path of transcendence, to actually go past that. But Krishna is fulfilling the desire we have. That's why we have a particular physical form of matter. But there's a subtle body too that's operating, and that subtle body is the demanding part. And because the consciousness we hold is about trying to enjoy on a material level, that's why those particular lust, anger, greed emotions are there. So the consciousness can be cultivated on a different path. And then that's a personal choice, but it's usually by great good fortune meeting a Krishna conscious person who can allow one to see, oh, there's an alternate path.
Thank you for the lecture. My question is how to keep enjoying the life if we all know that we're here to suffer?
That's a fantastic question. Yes, how to remain joyful when one understands that actually one is here in this place to suffer. Well, um, actually, we're here believing that we're here to enjoy. And the idea of suffering only comes in when we start to understand what situation we are in. So, for many persons, they're completely convinced that they're enjoying their lives. And, if you ask somebody, how are you? They'll tell you they're well. But in actual fact, if you really are conscious that, gosh, just look at all the suffering around me. I hear about countries going to war over land. Um, I hear on a sort of more simple level of persons being subjected to violence from another person. And so I start to become aware that actually there are some terrible things that are happening, then one starts to look more internally and thinks, well, actually, I also need to question um myself, and to what extent am I just being forced to act in a particular way? Am I really actually not functioning within some sort of cyclical pattern? Am I not repeating the same behaviors over and over again? Um, and where do these behaviors lead to? And isn't it that, at some point I'm even going to have to leave this body? So everything that I hold dear is not going to be there anymore. I can't hold on to it. There's like a lifespan that's X number of years. So just that awareness, there's also death coming. So then one starts thinking, actually, uh, just the fact that everything's of such a temporary nature, there's some fear associated with everything. So indeed, you can ask that question. There's suffering here. Just knowing that everything has to end at some point. Whoever one holds dear, maybe that person may have to die earlier than oneself, and one is not, one is alone, or one oneself may have to die at some point. And so all the things that the relationships one has, the material objects one has, all of that will just be taken away, so to speak. They don't accompany one. So uh, so your question, how to be joyful, if you've understood all this. So that's where the particular beauty of actually understanding that one is eternally existent. It's not actually that this temporal world that one's inhabiting, this temporal body that one's inhabiting, is one's actual reality. One's actual reality is this eternal soul that is actually oneself. And that soul is going to actually have to move on to another body. So if one actually thinks, okay, the soul's going to have to move on. So I would like to know where I'm going. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. By cultivating that service to the complete whole, the transcendent being that is Lord Krishna, who's a loving being, and one actually can move in the direction of actually going to a place where one isn't bound anymore by the temporal creation. So one is in one's eternal form. One is not having to have all these things that indeed make one suffer. Just knowing that one's body has to end, one's relationships have to end, one's attachment to one's physical environment, all of it has to end. So one will be in a place that's eternally existent, and one's in one's eternally existent spiritual form, and one's relationships are eternal, and it's based on love. There's not actually that terrible underlying consciousness of needing to acquire and possess and getting attached and distressed if one's losing things. So all of that is cleared out of the way. So that cultivating that kind of consciousness that can bring one to that kind of spiritual reality is where the joy lies. That there's that possibility, and one starts to experience that internal joy just by performing service to Lord Krishna, because it puts one directly in contact, in relationship with that Supreme Being. And the same thing with chanting His holy name, one's directly in contact with Him, and one feels and understands that it's actually allowing one to rise above any suffering. And one's consciousness is getting altered. One is actually shifting one's focus, one's moving in the direction of transcendence, and leaving behind that fear, that distress, the anxiety, um, the possessiveness, all of that kind of negativity that binds one and keeps one in such an anxious, fearful, distressed condition, that is falling away. So it's such an extraordinary opportunity to actually, even in this setting, start to factually experience joy, and it's factual joy. Um, I mean, just being present in, say, the particular, what would one call it, means for accessing that transcendental connection, like a public kirtan, one gets a sense of that power of transcending all suffering, because one gets swept into the joyfulness of connecting with Lord Krishna and his the entire spiritual world just through performing kirtan, which is the very simple um, way that's given in this particular age that we are living in. So that's a very easy way to, even in a public setting, get some sense of that joy. And one can carry that, and it remains in the heart. That's the extraordinary thing. Any transcendental activity that's done, the benefit from it, the happiness from it, it remains in the heart and fills the heart up more and more over time, and leads to that kind of stable mind that isn't, always looking for something. So it's a major transformation, and one can observe it happening. It's very gradual, but there's a joyfulness from taking up that process, that path of transcendence. And it's the only real means for having genuine joy. So thank you for a very fantastic question. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavatam.